I said, "I do," to a man I had never seen in person. Not once. Not even on a video call. We talked every day for 4 years. Texting, voice notes, long midnight chats. But I didn't know his face. And when I finally saw it, it wasn't him. Name's Emma. I'm 28 years old. I work as a digital illustrator from my tiny apartment in Seattle. My life isn't glamorous, but it's colorful in ways most people can't see. I draw stories for a living, romance webtoons, mostly. You'd think, being in the business of love stories, I'd be a romantic. Truth is, I never was. Not until I met Eli. It started on a digital art forum during the pandemic. Those early scary months where the world felt like it was paused, and all we had was the internet to connect with anyone outside our walls. I posted one of my illustrations, something sad and messy, a girl sitting in a bathtub, fully clothed, crying with ink running down her face. The caption read, "Ever feel like you're not sad? Just tired of trying." I wasn't fishing for sympathy. It was just art therapy. But then a comment popped up. "This made me feel seen. Thank you for this. If you ever feel invisible, know you weren't tonight." That was the first time Eli spoke to me. At first, he was just another username. I replied with a simple, "Thank you," and didn't think much of it. But he kept commenting on my posts. Thoughtful things, specific things, things that made me feel like someone was really seeing, not just the art, but the girl behind it. He wasn't flirty, not at all. He wasn't trying to slide in. He was just present. And presence was a rare gift back then. A few days later, I posted a short comic about loneliness. A girl drawing smiley faces on her window with condensation because she missed seeing smiles. Eli messaged me privately, "Can I share something personal?" That was his first DM. I hesitated. Creepy DMs weren't new, but something told me he wasn't one of those. So I said yes. "That window comic. It's me. I live alone too. I haven't had a hug in 47 days. That number, 47. It broke my heart. We started messaging regularly after that. Our chats became part of my routine, like morning coffee or brushing my teeth. Wake up, sketch a little, check my phone. New message from Eli. He told me about his job. He was a freelance copywriter, living somewhere in Pennsylvania. He didn't give exact details, just enough to paint a picture. He loved poetry. He'd send me short pieces. Not the sappy kind, the real kind. Messy, raw, gut punch poems. I'd draw them. He'd react. We created a rhythm. Sometimes I'd send him voice notes while I worked. Rambling stuff about clients, stress, my neighbor's screaming cat. He never sent any back. I hate my voice. He once told me, "It makes me sound like a teenage frog." So we stuck to texts and typed laughter and emojis. It was weird, but also safe. Somewhere along the way, the messages changed. He started saying things like, "I wish I could be the one to bring you coffee," or "You deserve someone who sees how brilliant your shadows are." And I started looking at my phone a little longer before I replied. We made a rule early on. No video calls. It was mutual. He said it gave him anxiety. I said I understood. Truth is, I hated being on camera too. I always felt like I was being judged. Like the lens was a funhouse mirror, showing all the worst parts of me. So we stuck to words. Words became our world. We'd write long letters over chat, sometimes thousands of words long. It was like living in a novel, and we were both writing it. But unlike novels, life doesn't always follow a perfect plot. I think I fell in love with Eli the night he stayed up with me during a panic attack. It was 3 a.m. I couldn't breathe. My chest felt like a fist was crushing it. My thoughts were spiraling. I messaged him. "I can't do this." He replied instantly. "You're not alone. I'm here. Breathe with me." And then he typed out breathing instructions. Slowly, over and over. For 2 whole hours, he never left. That night, I felt held, without arms, comforted, without sound, loved, without having to ask. And that's when it happened. I whispered to myself, in a quiet voice I didn't recognize, "I think I'm falling in love with you." I didn't say it outright at first, but I dropped hints. Drawings of 2, people holding phones with red strings connecting them. Captions like, "Some love doesn't need eyes, just honesty." He got it. I know he did. One night he messaged, "Can I ask you something a little crazy? Always, would you ever marry someone you've never seen?" I stared at the message like it might catch fire. Then I wrote, "If I knew them the way I know you, maybe." His reply, "I want to marry you, Emma." And just like that, we were engaged. My friends thought I'd lost it. "You're marrying a stranger. You've never even FaceTimed. What if he's a 70-year-old dude in a basement?" My parents were even worse. My mom cried. My dad asked if I needed therapy, but I didn't care. They didn't know Eli. They didn't know our hours, our secrets, our rhythm. He wasn't a stranger. He was the only person who made me feel known. We decided to meet for the first time at the courthouse. No frills, just us, just love. I booked my flight to Pittsburgh. He said he'd be waiting outside, wearing a navy suit and holding a sunflower, my favorite flower. I didn't sleep the night before the flight. My heart was doing Olympic-level gymnastics. Would he be as poetic in real life? Would his smile feel like his words did? Would we click? Would this be the beginning of forever? I landed, took a cab, sat in the back, clutching my sketchbook like it was my shield. I saw the courthouse steps before I saw him, and then I saw someone. Tall, tan, wearing a navy suit, holding a sunflower. It was him. It had to be. He turned, he smiled, and in that moment, my whole world cracked because that smile wasn't Eli's. That face wasn't the one I imagined. That vibe, the warmth, the softness, the poetic quietness I felt from our chats. It wasn't there. This man was confident, charming, flashy even. And when he said, "Emma," I almost didn't answer. I stood on the courthouse steps, staring at the man holding the sunflower. He had the suit. He had the right flower. He even had Eli's gentle voice. At least the tone was similar, but my instincts screamed, "This isn't him." Still, I smiled. I nodded. I walked toward him, and we embraced like people who were supposed to be in love. He smelled like mint and sandalwood, comforting, but foreign. He looked me in the eyes and said, "You're more beautiful than I ever imagined." I wanted to believe him. I really did. But something didn't feel right. There was no awkward silence. No. "Oh wow, this is real" moment. Just confidence. Too much of it. Eli, the Eli I knew, was shy. He typed and deleted. He second-guessed himself. This man, he was smooth. But maybe love makes people different in person. Maybe this was just nerves, mine or his. So I smiled. I said, "Ready?" And we walked inside. We didn't have a crowd, just a witness the courthouse provided, and the officiant. I wore a knee-length ivory dress with embroidered stars. He wore navy blue with a black tie. His smile never faded. I couldn't stop staring at him, wondering how I missed all the red flags. Or maybe this was love just evolving. Maybe I was wrong. We exchanged simple vows. I read mine from a handwritten page in my sketchbook. To the man who taught me to love through words. To the stranger who became home in a screen. To the voice I never heard, but felt in every bone. I promise to grow with you, to trust the silence, to find our rhythm, even in this unknown. His vow was short. Emma, you've shown me what connection really is. You're my anchor, my safe space, my future. I promise to protect that. They were nice words, but they didn't feel like his words. Still, I said I do. So did he. And just like that, I was married. We went to a small cafe afterward, just the two of us. He ordered for both of us, like he knew my coffee order. He got it right. Still, I watched him carefully. Every laugh, every gesture, every detail. I was studying him. This wasn't the Eli who typed LOL only once after a perfect pun. This wasn't the guy who confessed he hated crowds, who used metaphors instead of flirting. This guy, he was charming, too charming. As we sat down, he leaned forward and said, "You're quiet. Everything okay?" I forced a smile. Just overwhelmed. Big day, of course. But we made it. Isn't that wild? I nodded, but it didn't feel real. He reached for my hand across the table. His touch wasn't cold, but it wasn't familiar either. We booked separate rooms. He was respectful, said he didn't want to pressure me. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. My phone buzzed. A message from Eli. Except I was married to him, and he was in the next room. I picked up the phone. New message. "You okay?" I hesitated, then walked over to his room. He opened the door. He looked confused. "Did you text me?" I asked. He raised a brow. "No, my phone's been charging." That was it. The moment I knew. We sat down across from each other. My pulse was roaring in my ears. "Tell me the truth," I said. "Are you Eli?" His smile faltered. His jaw clenched. He looked away for a moment, then met my eyes. No, that one word shattered everything. "Then who are you?" I whispered. "My name's Caleb," he said. "Eli is... well, he was my cousin's online handle. He passed away 2 years ago." My heart stopped. "Passed away? But we talked just last month." He nodded slowly. "I know, because I kept talking to you." He told me everything. Eli, the real Eli, was a quiet, introverted guy. He had messaged me on the forum. They used to share the same apartment. Caleb would watch Eli chat with me, sometimes helping him craft the perfect reply. When Eli died in a car crash, Caleb said he couldn't let go. He felt like he had fallen in love with me too. Through Eli's words, through my replies. "It started as grief," he said. "Then it became something else. You became my tether." I felt like the walls were closing in. You lied to me for years. I didn't know how to stop. Every time I tried to tell you, I was scared I'd lose you. I know what I did was wrong, but everything I said, everything you felt, was still real. Because it was me, Emma. I was the one writing to you. Every word, every message. I couldn't breathe. I left the room, slammed the door, cried on the hotel bathroom floor. The betrayal. It was too much. I had built a love story out of paper and screen light, and it burned the second it hit reality. Who was I in love with? The cousin I never met? The liar who wore his face? Or just the fantasy? I didn't know anymore. The next morning, I flew back to Seattle. Alone, I ghosted Caleb, blocked him, deleted every chat backup. But grief doesn't need words to stay. It lingers, in the silence. For weeks I didn't draw, didn't eat much, didn't reply to friends. I went dark. One day, a package arrived at my door. No return address. Inside, a sketchbook. The pages were filled with illustrations. Mine, my comics, my drawings, my art from the past 4 years. And beside each one, handwritten notes. Some of them were quotes from our chats. Some were new, raw, honest, apologetic. The last page was a drawing I never made. A girl and a boy, sitting back to back, phones in their hands, eyes closed. Between them, a sunflower, blooming out of cracked concrete. The note beside it read, "I never wanted to lie, but I couldn't stop loving you, even when I wasn't brave enough to be real. I don't expect forgiveness, but I'll never stop being thankful for the chapters we shared. Caleb." There was one more thing in the package, a flash drive. I hesitated, but curiosity won. Inside, voice recordings, dozens. I clicked on one. A quiet voice spoke. "Hi Emma, it's me, the real voice, the one behind every typed poem, every midnight comfort." It was him, not Caleb, a different voice, a voice I'd never heard, but somehow, instantly knew. The voice on the flash drive. It wasn't Caleb. It wasn't anyone I had ever met in person, but it was him, the one I had truly loved, soft, careful, quiet in a way that made you want to listen harder. Like each word was chosen delicately, as though it might shatter if spoken too loud. He said, "You don't know me, at least not the way I wanted. I never meant for it to happen this way. My name is Ryan, and I was the ghost behind the screen." Ryan. The name felt foreign, but right. He continued. 4 years ago, I was writing under Eli's profile. I never meant to fall for you. I was just helping my friend, Caleb, write better messages to impress a girl. But then you replied, and you were you. And I couldn't stop. I froze the recording. Wait. So there were 3 of them. Me, the real Caleb, and Ryan, the secret writer behind it all. I played the next recording. After Eli died, Caleb took over the account, but he didn't know I still had access. I saw your messages. I kept replying under the same name, hoping it would keep you anchored, like it did for me. His voice cracked. I know I stole something sacred. I know I created a lie, but everything I ever wrote to you was real. There was a pause. Then, the truth is, Emma, I was in love with you, long before I had the right to be. I sat there for hours, listening to him. Each recording was a confessional. Some were voice diaries. Some were readings of our past chats, spoken aloud with real emotion. Suddenly, memories I'd long buried came rushing back. The midnight poems, the weird inside jokes about cosmic lizards, the good night star girl he used to type every time I signed off. Those weren't from Eli, weren't from Caleb. They were Ryan's. Somehow, all this time, it was his voice I fell for. Not a face, not a username, but the heart behind the words. A few days later, I received an email. Just one line. "I'm sorry, but if you ever want the truth from me, in person, I'll be at page 214. That was it. But I knew what it meant. Page 214 was the library cafe where I first posted my comic series, Stargirl and the Other Side. Only a few fans ever caught the reference. Ryan was one of them. I went. I told myself I was going for closure. Not forgiveness, not hope, just the truth. He was sitting in the corner, a notebook open, pen tapping against his thumb. He looked up, nervous eyes, kind smile, no sunflowers, no fancy suit, just him. He stood when he saw me, didn't rush, didn't speak, waited. I sat down, silence stretched between us like a thin wire, ready to snap. Finally I said, "You lied." He nodded. No, you manipulated me. Yes. But you also wrote me love letters for 4 years and never asked for anything in return. He blinked. I didn't want to ruin what we had. We sat there for an hour. I asked questions. He answered them, slowly, honestly. He told me about the nights he stayed up rereading our chats, how he would re-record the same line 10 times to sound more like the guy you imagined, how he started sketching because he wanted to understand my world, and how every day he regretted letting Caleb step in and steal his place. I asked him the one thing that haunted me. Why didn't you just tell me the truth? His eyes glistened. Because you were falling for the mask. And I thought, maybe if I became the mask long enough, I could make it real. I left that day without saying much else. My heart was too loud, my mind too quiet. But before I left, I handed him one of my old sketchbooks, the one I'd hidden away, the one with drawings of us, of Eli, of all the dreams I had built around a ghost. On the last page, I drew something new. A girl standing in front of a real boy. No phones, no usernames, just truth. And below it, I wrote, if we're going to start again, let's start from page 1. Ryan didn't message me after that. Not for a week. Then 2. Then one day, I found a package at my door. Inside, a comic. Self-published. Hand-bound. Title, Stargirl. The voice I never heard. The first page showed me, my character, but drawn by him. And on the first speech bubble, she said, I never needed a perfect story, just a real one. It didn't happen overnight. It took therapy, apologies, hard conversations. But over months, Ryan and I rebuilt something real. We went to open mics. We made comics together. We cooked terrible pasta on Thursdays. We argued over ink versus digital. We wrote each other real letters. And one day, without flowers or grand gestures, he looked at me and said, I love you, Emma. Not as a voice, not behind a name, just me. And I replied, then let's stop writing endings and start living chapters. We had become real. There were no more fake names, no hidden truths, no profiles to hide behind, just me and Ryan. 2 people trying to love each other in the rawest, most honest way possible. We laughed more, cried sometimes, held hands during thunderstorms, created art not just for strangers, but for each other. And for a while, I believed we had finally broken the curse of our twisted beginning. But real life, unlike fiction, doesn't pause when things get good. One evening, while I was finishing the final panel of our newest comic, The Mask and the Mirror, Ryan walked in, unusually quiet. He handed me a letter. A real one. Heavy, expensive paper. Embossed in gold. I opened it. The International Graphic Arts Fellowship. 1-year residency in Kyoto, Japan. I stared. I couldn't breathe. This was the opportunity. The kind of once-in-a-lifetime door that opened only for the chosen few. He had submitted our joint portfolio without telling me. That night, I didn't speak much. My thoughts churned like laundry in a spin cycle. Ryan had done what any ambitious artist should do, chase the dream. But a year, across the world, I asked quietly, so, when do you leave? He looked at the floor. 2 weeks. My heart snapped in two. Not because he was going, but because he had planned to go alone. For the next few days, we lived in silence, moving around each other like ghosts. I went back to journaling, my real voice, hidden in paper. If love is real, does it survive time zones? Am I being selfish for wanting him to stay? Or is he selfish for assuming I'd wait without being asked? Every day, I watched him pack a little more, roll up more pens, seal sketchbooks, box his digital tablet with bubble wrap like it was sacred. I wasn't mad, just disconnected, like we were back behind screens again. The night before his flight, he slid a sealed envelope across our table. Don't open it until I'm in the air. I didn't argue. When I woke the next morning, he was gone. The apartment felt hollow. Too still, too clean, like we had wiped our fingerprints off the walls. I opened the letter. Emma, if you're reading this, I'm on a plane, wondering if I made the biggest mistake of my life. I didn't ask you to come with me because I didn't want you to feel obligated. You built your world here, and I thought I had to do this alone to prove I was worth the version of me you fell in love with. But I already miss you. I miss the way your voice rises when you argue about fonts. I miss the way you hum when you draw. I miss the way you look at me like I'm real. If there's still a place for me in your story, come find me. If not, thank you for letting me live in your chapters. Ryan. For 3 days, I didn't do anything. I watered the plants, answered some emails, sketched a little. Then I opened our old chat archive. Scrolled to the very beginning, every message, every typo, every digital rose. Every night we stayed up until 3 a.m., sending voice notes across a void. Then I looked around my apartment, the one we'd made a home, and I realized I missed him too. Not the version from online, the real one, the one who lied, the one who healed, the one who stayed until he had to go, and maybe it was my turn now. I booked the flight without telling anyone, traded my routine for risk. I wore the necklace he gave me, an old stylus tied to a chain, symbol of the art we made together. As the plane lifted off, I wasn't afraid, not anymore. For the first time, I wasn't running from the past. I was flying toward the future, one that we would write together. I found him in a tiny Kyoto art studio, surrounded by sketches of lanterns and koi fish and lovers separated by language. He didn't see me at first. I stood in the doorway, heart pounding, hands shaking. Then I whispered, "Hey, Starboy." He turned, dropped his pencil, stared, like he couldn't believe I was real. "Emma, you invited me into your world. I'm just accepting the offer." He walked toward me, slow and stunned. Then he touched my cheek, gentle, like I might vanish. I didn't. We stayed in Kyoto. We taught workshops together, drew murals on side streets, drank sake and shared noodle bowls, and burned rice 100 times. He proposed, not with a ring, but with a sketch of me, holding a pen, writing, yes, and I did. Because this time, there were no fake names, no secret narrators, just us. 2 artists, 2 lovers, and 1 story. People ask us all the time, "How did you two meet?" We smile, look at each other, then say, "We fell in love online, but we married in real life." The in-between was messy, complicated, beautiful, and worth every word, because in the end, I didn't marry a username. I married the boy who made mistakes, but never stopped trying to turn our story into something real. Kyoto was magic. It wasn't the temples, or the cherry blossoms, or the late-night ramen that made it feel that way. It was the way we existed there. Unhurried, present, real. We worked in the same tiny studio, often bumping into each other's elbows. Sometimes we'd fight over shading techniques. Sometimes we'd kiss over spilled ink. We created a new series together, Digital Ghosts, a love story about 2 strangers who fell for each other behind a screen. Readers adored it. Some even guessed it was autobiographical. We never confirmed, but in our little apartment above the tea shop, we lived every panel. Until the day I found the letter. It was tucked inside one of Ryan's sketchbooks. Unmarked, folded, simple. At first, I thought it was just a draft script. Until I read the first line. Dear Emma, if you're reading this, it means I never got to explain myself. Please don't hate me. My heart dropped. I sat down, kept reading. There's something I haven't told you. When I first started writing you as Eli, I was in therapy, not the casual kind, the court-ordered kind. I was struggling a lot with anxiety, depression, even thoughts of ending things. I never planned to use you to escape, but that's exactly what I did. Talking to you gave me a reason to wake up, to write, to believe someone could love me, even if they didn't know the worst parts. You saved me, and I'm scared that one day, if you knew all of this, you'd leave, just like everyone else did. Ryan and I sat in the dark for hours, not because I was angry, but because I was sad. Sad he thought I couldn't handle his pain. Sad he still felt like he had to hide from me, even after everything. Sad that the man who taught me love didn't believe he deserved it. When Ryan came home that night, he saw the letter on the table. He froze. His face went pale. Emma, I didn't speak. I stood, walked over, took his hand, pressed it to my heart. You don't have to protect me from your past. I fell in love with you, not a highlight reel. He broke. Tears spilled. And in that moment, I realized something important. The bravest kind of love is loving someone after the fairy tale. After that night, something shifted. Ryan stopped hiding. He opened up more, told me about his lowest point, about losing Eli, about nights he slept in his car, about the medication, the guilt, the healing, and I told him things I'd never told anyone either. About my imposter syndrome, about my fear of being abandoned, about the time I almost deleted all my art because a troll said it felt fake. We started drawing a new comic. Unfiltered. It wasn't romantic. It was real. It showed anxiety attacks, creative blocks, late nights where nothing made sense. And somehow, that comic became our most popular one yet. Because people didn't want perfection, they wanted honesty. One rainy morning, Ryan got a call from his mom. We had just finished breakfast, burnt toast and strawberries. I saw his face change, serious, tight. He hung up, then sat in silence. My dad had a stroke. I froze. We had never talked much about his dad. Just fragments, tense memories, silence, a strained past. I need to go back to California, he said. I don't know for how long. I nodded. Of course he had to go. What I didn't expect was the question that followed. Will you come with me? California was nothing like Japan. Louder, colder, less poetic. We stayed in a guest room in his childhood home. Walls still lined with trophies he never talked about. His dad was unconscious. His mom exhausted. The house too quiet. Ryan didn't talk much that first week. He barely picked up a pencil. I gave him space. Then one night, he found me sketching by the window and asked, "Do you ever regret it?" I looked up. Regret what? Choosing me. This life. This chaos. I walked over, took his face in my hands. I don't regret a single line we've drawn together, even the messy ones. When his dad woke up, things got even harder. They argued, fought in whispers. Too many years of silence bursting at once. I kept my distance, until one afternoon, I found Ryan sketching his father, fragile, hooked to wires, yet still proud-looking. He was a coach, Ryan said. Never got why I drew. Thought it was weak. We didn't talk for 5 years. I watched as he shaded his father's hands, rough, veined, aging. Why now? I asked. Because even if he never changes, I need to stop carrying that weight. A few weeks later, Ryan's dad was stable enough to return home. Ryan came to me with a grin I hadn't seen in months. Pack your bags. Why? We're going on a road trip. That road trip was a love letter to everything we'd been through. We visited bookstores that carried our comics, slept in sketchy motels, had breakfast in diners where nobody knew us, somewhere in Arizona, under a sky full of stars. He handed me a folded piece of paper, not a ring, not a grand gesture, just a page from his sketchbook. On it, let's keep writing this story, even when the pages crinkle. And below it, a new title. Chapter 1, Marriage, Take 2. After weeks on the road, we came back to Kyoto, tired, sunburned, and happier than we'd ever been. Our little apartment smelled like ink and ginger tea. The studio windows had collected dust. A few of our plants had given up, but it still felt like home. We unpacked slowly, hung photos from the trip, started new sketches, planned out a new webcomic arc. Something about healing, travel, and shared silence. And then quietly, we started planning our wedding. We didn't want a big ceremony. No fancy hotel ballroom. No $1,000 cake. No 50 strangers clapping during a slow dance. Just us, our closest friends, and our story told the way we lived it. Through art, we hosted the ceremony in an old gallery downtown. White walls, blank canvases. Each guest got a pen. The invitation simply read, "Come draw our beginning." When Ryan and I stood in front of the room, I wasn't wearing white. I wore blue, his favorite color, the one that reminded him of calm skies and digital paint. And when we exchanged vows, we didn't speak. We flipped sketchbooks, page by page, panels of our story. From the first message to the first lie, from heartbreak to forgiveness, from distance to this moment, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. A week after the wedding, we received a package. No return address. Inside, a USB drive, a printed manuscript, and a note written in someone else's handwriting. To Emma and Ryan, this was meant to be published years ago. But I could never find the courage. It's the story of two people who loved behind masks, who lied, and then chose to love anyway. I don't know what your ending looks like, but I hope this gives you peace. Eli. We sat there, stunned. I opened the file. It was our story, written like a novel, but from Eli's point of view. How he created Ryan, how he shaped his words, how he knew one day Ryan would outgrow him. Ryan didn't speak for a long time. Then, finally, he whispered, "He wasn't my villain. He was my beginning." We debated for days. Should we read it all? Should we keep it to ourselves? Should we share it? And in the end, we chose yes. We published it online, unedited, under the title, "The Boy Behind the Screen, A Goodbye from Eli." It went viral in hours, not because it was perfect, but because it was brave. People wrote to us from all over the world. "I'm Eli. I dated a Ryan. I lied too, and I regret it every day. Thank you for telling this story." Just when we thought we'd reached our happy ending, something unexpected happened. I missed my period, and for the first time in our marriage, I saw a flicker of fear in Ryan's eyes. He held the test like it might burn. We waited, silently. When the result appeared, positive, I looked at him, unsure. "Ryan," he didn't speak. He left the room. My chest tightened. Was he running again? I sat alone on the bathroom floor. 10 minutes, then 20. Then the door creaked open, and he knelt beside me, tears in his eyes. I'm scared. Not because I don't want this, but because I do. So much it hurts. I grabbed his hand. Then we face it together, like we always do. Pregnancy wasn't cute. Instagram posts and pastel onesies. It was morning sickness, cravings for seaweed chips. Mood swings so intense. I once cried because Ryan used the wrong pencil. But it was also ultrasound prints stuck on the fridge, late night, name debates, doodles of baby onesies, and future comics. When our daughter was born, we named her Lena, after the word line, the one we always return to in art and in life. We made a new series, Lines and Little Feet. It was messy, half comic, half journal, panels about parenting fails, diapers, sleep deprivation, tiny hands grabbing expensive markers. But it was real. People loved it, and as Lena grew, so did we. Not just as artists, not just as lovers, but as a family. And every now and then, when the house is quiet and the studio light flickers, I catch Ryan drawing her, sometimes with her eyes closed, sometimes with mine, always full of love. One night, long after Lena fell asleep, I found Ryan in the studio. He was flipping through our first comic, the one that started it all. "Do you think people would still fall for this story?" he asked. I smiled. They already did. He looked at me. I never thought I'd have this. A real family. A love that forgives. A life I didn't have to fake. I pulled him close. Neither did I. But here we are. So, if you're still listening, if you're wondering whether online love can survive the real world, know this: we didn't fall in love with each other's perfection. We fell in love with the flaws, with the mistakes, with the healing, and every day we choose each other again, even when it's hard, even when it's messy, even when the story doesn't go the way we planned. Because the truth is, I married my online best friend, and he turned out to be everything I never knew I needed. Even if our story started with a lie, we turned it into the truest thing we've ever known. Thanks for watching. Hoped you liked it. If you watched till the end, please comment "end" so that we could understand you were with us till the end. As well as, please let us know, where are you watching from? Before leaving, please hit the subscribe button, comment your thought, and share with your nearest and dearest one. See you in the next one. Until to the next one, spread love.